This is Ned's AFL Unpopular Opinions.
Hello, partners, and welcome back to another episode of AFL Unpopular Opinions. I'm your host, Ryan Cook. Joining me back from his mid-season freshen up over across the ditch, it's Alastair Lynch.
Yeah, good to be back. Good to be back in the studio.
And, of course, Tommy Rockliff to my left this week. How are you, mate?
Yes, good. Thanks, Ryan. Back for another week. I'm not sure we're any wiser to who's going to win it.
No.
But it was a good weekend of footy.
It didn't start as a good weekend in footy in Tassie. A tough watch.
Well, you forget the Thursday night as well.
And Thursday.
The Dogs are back. Darcy's back.
Yeah.
They're a different team when he's back.
Well, are they the bye of the round? Like, they're sitting in ninth spot, a game out of the 8. They've underachieved to date, and with Darcy coming back into the side, they have got to rock it up, don't they? I mean,
You'd think so. I think they tick a lot of the boxes. They're still working out what's best. I mean, Livers had 29 off halfback and through the mids again.
yeah,
so
it's still unusual.
They're trying to work out where their best fit is. The pickup of the year has to be nearly Matty Kennedy, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Very good.
Like, he's kicked another couple, 29 touches. He just seems to bob up and kick goals. So he's a goal-kicking midfielder now. Carlton, crazy to let him go. But, yeah, they're. I think they'll go deep, the Dogs.
They'd have to. And I think if Darcy gets back to full fitness, which he's obviously shown a good start to his return, but they could be very dangerous. And probably the two other talking points, your old clubs, both of them. Well, Port Adelaide, back-to-back wins. When they look like they had a fork in them, 3 weeks ago when they had the weekend off, you thought they're absolutely cooked. And there was a lot of discussion, Kenny's about to get moved. If they lost it in Canberra, there was a lot of discussion around probably it's the time to move him on.
Yep.
But they've won back-to-back games. But probably the biggest talking point is the form of the Brisbane Lions.
Yeah, let me hear it. What's the takeaways?
Well, you can look at the surface and just say, well, they had more shots, so they should have won the last 2 weeks. But the reality is that was a low-pressure game, and they just turned the ball over too easily and got scored against the other way. And to have 28 tackles in a game, and it was something that you didn't have to look at the stats to know there's no tackles going on out there. It was a low-pressure game. But the thing that I thought Fags would be most disappointed, outside kick your goals, you win the game. But, Rocky, you would have noticed this. You've played more modern footy than me. Looks like Brisbane, they can play fast, but they were playing flat out off halfback and then getting turned over in their half-forward line. And so they're not structured behind the ball, and they were just getting opened up the other way. It looked like they were just going too quick. They didn't have that two-speed, two modes of play. So at times, Ryan, this might sound silly. It's not always great to go fast because modern footy, you have to sort of set up behind the ball just in case you turn it over so you can defend.
Yep.
Too often, Brisbane just looked exposed and opened up the other way, and certainly Finn Callahan exposed them.
He certainly did. I think they gave up 9 goals from their back half, which is almost records.
And it was 0 last week.
Yeah.
Against Port Adelaide, they 0 out of the back half.
Yeah, the Giants. So they just exposed them, and you're probably right, Brisbane. When they're up and going and they look their best, they're electric. Off halfback, Zorko. We know Coleman's out for another 5 or 6 weeks. He hurt his quad. So they are aggressive with their ball movement. But speaking to them straight after the game, I actually sat in the stands for the first time ever. I was just telling Ryan, I've never been to a game, I don't think, and sat there for the last 15 or 16 years and just watched.
Really, yeah.
Seen Danny Daly, and he was saying, like, just defensively they were off. And that was the most talking point, I think, giving up 9 goals from the back half, just defensively exposed themselves there. So they need to go to work on that, get their tackle pressure right. And I know I said it a couple of weeks ago that they need to make a stance or make a big call. I still think that they need to do that. Lohman was a sub on the weekend. I know he's had a few injury concerns in and out of the team. So, yeah, Fags is very loyal and that normally pays off. But Charlie Cameron's the one, I think, that he was nowhere again on the weekend. I think he had 1 handball halfway through the third. I said it would be Rayner. I think Rayner's been serviceable the last couple of weeks. He's hit the scoreboard. He looks good coming out of the goal square. If they can't hit the scoreboard, so he gives them a different option. But Cameron's the one who's just out of sorts. I don't know what it is.
And I think
I was at the races on Saturday, didn't see a lot of this game, and a friend came to me and said, who's going to kick a couple goals for the Lions? And I said Charlie Cameron, and he's done absolutely nothing again. So
no, it just looks like, and Fags has got that mentality. He more put the arm around and give them time and support to find their form. I mean, Charlie, I think, had a bit of a drop-off last year. I think still kicked mid-40s goals.
Yeah.
And this year I think he's kicked about 14 goals. He looks just off. He just looks like he's not just a half a yard off the pace. And so what's the best way? And this is not a criticism of Charlie Cameron because he's been a superstar player, but what's the best way to get him back in form? Is it a week in the twos, which I don't think would happen? Is it a bit of a spell off half back to get him running and getting some, bit of easier uncontested ball? But yeah, that's I think the challenge now for the forwards, as you said. Cam Rayner, but he's looked explosive at times. But yeah, Kai Lohmann, Charlie Cameron have just been dropping in and out of games, and Charlie's struggling to have a bit of an impact at the moment. So that's a big concern because if they're going to win it, they need the likes of Charlie Cameron up and playing near his best.
And now we've got injury concerns with Jack Payne.
going down.
Eric Hipwood going down back. What's this going to look like for the Lions now going forward?
They probably have enough cover there. I don't know where Duday's at. Is he been playing?
So he's been on and off in the twos.
On and off.
And I think they're pretty patient, want to be pretty patient with him because he's had the 2 ACLs.
Yep.
So I think he was going to play on the weekend and they needed to give him an extra game because he'd had the weekend off before. But then they didn't want to turn him around on a 5-day rotation. So that's why Darcy Gardner was pulled out of the team. So he didn't play twos. So it looks like Darcy will go straight in. I think probably... long term, and they know Darcy Gardner can play down there, so they'll give him every chance. But I think long term, maybe it means Harris Andrews goes back to fullback and plays on the best defender, which he does sometimes. But Jack's been able to hold down the best defender in most games, so I think he goes back. And if Duday gets near to his best in the latter half of the season, he can almost play the intercepting role that Harris Andrews has done because that's what he did when he was at his best at the Adelaide Crows. And we know even this weekend, Ryan Lester's done the job on Jeremy Cameron before, so he'll get that matchup. So it just allows Harris to be a bit more flexible and go back.
They've got options. Their VFL team won by 85 points against the Giants on Sunday. So they've got an opportunity to do that. Oscar McInerney had a first run back for 6 weeks, so they'd probably get the ruck stocks, but I don't think they beat Geelong down there, so they'll go into the bye potentially off the back of 3 losses, back right in the mid part of that field now.
I think the last time Brisbane beat Geelong down there, you were playing, I reckon.
No, I never beat them down there.
No, maybe it was before you.
Yeah.
I think it was a long time ago. So they got some concerns. What about one of their players that isn't a concern and probably opens to a wider discussion about some of the elite forwards in the competition? Is there a better key young forward in the game outside Sam Darcy because he's just ridiculously good? Logan Morris. I mean, what Logan Morris is doing now, it's his forward line. He's the key up there.
Yep.
He's just one of those smart players, not overly tall. I mean, I suppose he'd be only 193 or something like that, if that. But he's someone that finds space and can mark the ball. He is a solid jump, but marks it at the highest point. And I think he's in front of some players that are probably a bit more celebrated and a bit more maybe exciting, like Cadman, who had a breakout game, Caddy, that could be a star, Tracy. But Logan Morris, 12 months into his career, he's probably the pick of that group.
Kick 5, yeah. I've seen someone say they'd take Cadman over Morris. I'd be Logan Morris every day of the week. He's only 191, so he's not massive. But his ability to hit the scoreboard and just impact the game, I reckon he's going to be an absolute superstar in a couple of years' time.
Talking about forwards, let's quickly pivot to Kozzie Pickett signing a 9-year deal worth $12 million. This is a monstrous amount of money for a small forward, and there's been a lot made of it. Do you guys think this is a bit of a overpay?
It's a monstrous bit of coin. You want to go first?
Well, I was just going to say, I think you have to now, only on the basis that it's trade bargaining power. So if he does go in a couple of years, they go, well, we want 3 first rounders for him because he ain't worth that. Like,
No.
he's
Well, I think-
small forward that can impact through the midfield. And I accept he's a really good player. He ain't worth that, though.
So what are you more concerned about, the dollars or the years?
Both. I think small forwards, as we've seen with Charlie Cameron, if you get shadowed and you can fall away, if opposition work you out really quickly, you can have your burst for 2 or 3 years and then drop away. Are we seeing Kozzie Pickett at his absolute best now? And you would think Melbourne, they've been burnt by these long deals already. Like Clayton Oliver's not the player he was.
Greatest damon of all time.
Well,
He was tracking quite nicely. Google his resume and it stacks up.
But you're only one injury away, and Petrarca's the same. Petrarca signed the long-term deal as well, but I think they showed some edits last night on one of the shows of him he certainly protects himself because he went through a near-death experience. And 9 years at that sort of money is insane for me. I think like when you think about Buddy Franklin, what was it, 10 years ago, signing that deal, he was worth $1 million for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about the best player in the competition for a long period of time compared to Kozzie Pickett, who I don't think he top 15, 20 players in the comp. Like
God, no.
So we put
he
out...
He wouldn't have been top half a dozen in their best and fairest or anything like that. So it's a bit of a futures play.
Yeah, and I think it's only for protection, really, for him to go. So I wouldn't do it. You signed the long-term deals.
Yeah, well, it's high risk. Well, we saw with me after 13 games, I looked like I was cooked. But it's high risk. I'm more concerned with the length of contract. You know, probably, it's overs on the dollars, but he could go to something special if he spends more time in the midfield. But just the length of time is a huge investment that you're staking a lot on one particular small forward that hopefully turns into one of the, well, you want him to turn into one of the great midfielders on that sort of coin. So it's huge risk. When you compare that to, say, the long-term deal, we're not sure what it was, substantial money, say similar, but probably for about 7 years for Finn Callahan. Now, I can see that.
Yeah.
Because, he's a 6'4" midfielder that is showing it in games, as he did on the weekend in his first game back. So I don't mind that value and term for Finn Callahan, but, the small forward hopes to be a very good midfielder and showed signs on the weekend in the first half that, geez, he can play. But, the sustained periods through games and through months, we haven't seen it yet.
Because for me, a key forward or a key back can define a game because the impact, where a small forward can be determined on how much footy goes in and how many opportunities they get. So, I mean... I think for what he's produced so far, it's clearly overs. There's been so much talk about his contract wanting to go back to Perth. So I think it's more safety for Melbourne if he does decide in 2 years' time it's time for me to go home. Let Melbourne go, well, we've got 8 years to run at 1.5 mil. What are you going to give us? So it'll force their hand, whether it be West Coast or Fremantle, if he is to do that. So,
geez, you could be paying some of the wage on the way out. I mean, you might get your couple of first-round draft picks, but that money, again, is not paying for a small forward. No. They're paying that futures on a midfielder.
Yeah.
They want him to... He has to turn into a midfielder.
Yeah, has to. And again, Melbourne, where are they at? They're almost a bottom 4, bottom 5 team, and you're handing out that sort of money, so crazy.
But we will talk about Melbourne in a second, but just in general, I think this is a really interesting time for signing contracts in the AFL because we've got the Bont still unsigned and there's still a little bit of talk about him going to Collingwood. I don't think it's going to happen. You've already mentioned Callahan. Sam Darcy, would he eventually fetch that kind of coin? I think Nick Watson's another one. What does Kozzie's deal sort of do for the market going forward? We talked about Buddy, and I listened to Buddy's podcast this morning. He was saying that he wouldn't have paid Kozzie that kind of money, so that's a big statement from him. What does this do for forwards in general going forward, do you think?
Well, it's just probably the desperation of locking away your talent, as Rocky sort of, because the game's getting more, players are getting more transient and happier enough to move, to retain your talent, which is what you want to do. It's imperative to keep them, but it's going to blow some budgets out. You talk De Koning going to St Kilda. That's, again, discussed as huge money to go there. Is he the right player to pay that sort of money for a ruckman when they got Marshall? That's an interesting discussion as well, because Carlton, can they afford to keep him?
Well, with the contracts that you would imagine are in place, I don't know how they can.
Well, I don't think they can.
They need to move someone.
Well, I think they'd be looking at this and saying, well, this might be a good out. They get great compensation the other way, so a couple of draft picks back, but they get a big chunk off their books, which so they can invest into some younger players. So that's a huge one. But it's a tough discussion at the moment. And again, with Tassie coming in, there'll be some bigger money in the early years for players, so that's going to inflate things even more. So, and probably the interesting one, which we've discussed numerous times on this show, is Matt Rao, whether he stays on the Gold Coast, because he's obviously been offered big money from numerous Melbourne clubs.
And Ben King as well. That's another one that I didn't even mention there.
Yeah, they can't. The Gold Coast can't let King go. I don't think they can let either of them go. They can't continue to build this talent up and let it go. You look at the players they've lost over the years that have gone on to win premierships at other teams, Stephen May, Tom Lynch, Prestia, like key post players. They need to retain them now, the Gold Coast. So
there's no way they're going.
Yeah, well,
I think there's...
What if Collingwood comes and says, here's 3 first-round picks, like a Jeremy Cameron type situation?
But again, you don't want to be in that phase of doing the first rounder all the time, because I think they've done it for so long and they nurture the talent for a bit and then you lose it. I think you've got to just keep what they've got. And they've got good academy kids coming through now, as we've seen, and they'll continue to build. So they can't afford to lose talent that's ready-made. King's a potential Coleman medalist already. So
for too long they were a development club for Melbourne-based clubs with May, Lynch, Caddy, Prestia, all those players sort of going down there. You can't be that. They've got the talent, so you've got to retain them. But I'd think from King and Rao's point of view, and this is what we discussed previously with Rao, sign 2 years.
Yeah,
you're on the precipice of actually doing something that the clubs yearn for since they came into the competition. You'll know in 2 years' time, you've got the opportunity to be the first ever one of the first ever premiership, part of the first ever premiership team with the Gold Coast. Sign for 2 years, you're still both young men, you have plenty of opportunities, but you could be part of something special here, 2 years, and then you've got other opportunities down the track and you might have a flag under your belt.
Off the back of the Kozzie Pickett deal as well, a guy like Sam Darcy would be sitting there just laughing, wouldn't he? Because if Kozzie's getting that, he'd be... What would you pay him?
When Tassie walks in and says, here's $1 million.
$2.5.
Well, you would have to.
You would have to consider it.
But a player like that, that's not even only a marquee player for his club, but a marquee player for the league. Like, could do anything. And it's high risk to roll all those chips into one player.
But he's not coming along. Like, he's a generational.
Absolutely.
He's a one in a 20 year.
So you would near go $2.5 million if you could shake him out. He's not going anywhere.
Nah.
He's not leaving anywhere. But you know what? He might sit back and think this is good how the money's going berserk. He's either going to be stinking rich or filthy rich.
Yeah.
So
good position to be in.
I think he's okay.
Yeah.
He'll be right.
Let's stay on the Dogs too, actually, because we need to talk about Jamarra's potential return. It sounds like it's probably only going to be a few weeks away. He's going to play in the VFL back from personal leave of absence dating back to last September. We know what sort of talent that he brings to the Dogs, and they've had a lot of injuries this year, and now they're starting to get these pieces back together. So it feels like he can maybe lock him in for a top 8 finish. But what does Jamarra bring back to this team, do you think?
If he's at his best, he's certainly a dynamic another option in that forward half. Imagine the defenders walking down there. You've got Darcy, Norton, Ugle-Hagan. It's a tough matchup on those three. So I don't think he'll come in for an extended period of time. We don't know the circumstances inside and out. He's obviously had some struggles. The club clearly don't sit in a line with him for a period of time. So
they lost trust, didn't they?
Yeah.
For whatever, there was a breakdown. They lost trust, so it's going to take a hell of a long time to get that back.
It'd have to and to get up to AFL standard. Yes, he may have been training away from it. We heard he went to a retreat. It might have even been up here on the Gold Coast.
I think it was New South Wales. Yeah.
So he's obviously done a training block, but you're going to have to do at least 4 to 6 weeks to get up to AFL standard. So I'd imagine he'll do a 2 or 3 week training block, go to the VFL, and then it's a matter of forcing his way in or what they want to do. It's a nice thing to have. It's almost a mid-season trade draft period that he's come back into the fold for him.
But yeah, I mean, and again, because they know the story and they've worked with him for a long period of time, they actually want to get him healthy for various reasons, because they want to get him healthy and fit and everything to play footy. That'd be a byproduct of getting his life on track. But also, if he's not right to play, you're sort of dressing him up for sale as well. I mean, giving the best opportunity. And it might be the best opportunity for him as a young man to go somewhere else. And so that's where could be a win-win. So, yeah, later part of the season, get him prepared to play VFL, get him prepared to play in AFL, and he might be someone that you can use late. But at the same time, might be the best for him to go somewhere else. Dogs get high value for him, and someone else gets a good player, and importantly, he's happy and playing some good footy.
Yeah, they could potentially sell high if he plays some great footy over the next 6 weeks whenever he comes back. So.
Well, and that's where it's an interesting conversation about how the evolution of trading it's come a long way in the last decade or so. But Oscar Allen, what do you do with Oscar Allen if you're at a stage where you feel that he's definitely leaving? We're seeing on the weekend that he's had an injury. Now, sounds like it's just one of that sort of minor calf injury that might have got him. So, but if he did do an ACL or an Achilles, not only does that hurt, say, Brisbane, who sounds like Brisbane's right into him, but they might drop off that contract. Then it destroys West Coast. They lose their captain, but they don't get the draft picks because of his injury. So it is probably, I think, the sport in general, but the AFL is maybe maturing to a stage where having those conversations early, and it might be, it might be best that just you sit out the rest of the year.
Yeah.
For both parties, for Oscar, for Brisbane, if whoever it is, and West Coast to get the best value.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing left to play for based on what we've seen from the Eagles over the weekend at all. Yeah,
well, the other side of it is you don't want to get the young kids that are on the list just belted up. They need some experience around them.
Yeah.
So, but it's that balance. We need to protect the youngsters, but we need to protect our future trade value as well.
And then you've also got the problem of if you do bench him for the rest of the year, Harley Reid probably gets upset then as well.
And that's the whole package about managing your list, getting the right people in the right places, and how you manage your players. And so that's a huge talking point. So I would imagine there's been some detailed conversations behind the scenes with the likes of Harley and Oscar about intentions moving forward. Might not be all clear yet, but it would have been well and truly down the track.
Let's have a look at the ladder. We need to talk about Melbourne, who now sit 15th, 5 wins, 9 losses. Pretty flat performance again against your mob, Port Adelaide, on the weekend. Rocky, been a bit of talk about Stephen May's form. We didn't really touch on his altercation with Max Gawn on King's birthday a couple of weeks ago, but is he still the player that he once was? Is that a fair question to ask?
Well, he's leading the reverse Coleman, I seen the other day. So,
is he? Yeah. Great award, that one.
So he, which you wouldn't think normally, like Steve's pretty solid defender, gets the job done. So Georgiades got hold of him on the weekend, kicked 6. So maybe he's lost a yard or two of pace. He got his patterns really, really good, Georgiades, on the weekend. He wasn't straight up and down, where Stephen, that's what he likes to do. May comes out, stays on the tail, got him across and beat him contestedly. But then, late in that game, just dumb 50 and stuff like that. So he's lost his head a little bit as well. So there's Melbourne. I think we've said it for a couple of years now. The talent on that list, they should be top 4 team, and they should have been a top 4 team, probably won another premiership in the last 4 or 5 years. But where to for them? Do they need a quick list rebuild? We know that there's going to be change. Is it Goody? Is it players? Who knows? But yeah, they're up against it. I mean, Port Adelaide, I think we accept where they're at. They're going through almost a rebuild phase, but they've been good the last 2 weeks. But Melbourne, I don't know where Melbourne are at.
What do you think? Where's their upside? They're elite talent.
Their top end's as good as anyone. They haven't got a forward line.
But Gawn's not getting any better, and he's getting on a bit.
Yeah.
Oliver's not getting any better from where he's sat.
Yeah.
Petrarca's the same. Viney is the same. And you look at their forward line, there was a lot of hope around sort of Van Rooyen, but he hasn't really come on yet. So their forward line looks unders.
Well, you got Van Rooyen, Petty, like they're just not a forward line. Like you, as a defender, you'd walk down there and go, "Oh,
who's the target?"
Yeah.
Well, that's why Melksham's role against Brisbane a few weeks ago was so good because he had to play an important role in negate Brisbane's defence. So I have real concerns for their list build moving forward. And, they've gone all chips in on half a dozen players, realistically.
Well, it's the same as what Carlton have done, isn't it? Like they've gone chips in on their spine, which is as good a spine in the competition as anyone.
Yeah.
But outside of that, there's nothing. And then Melbourne's the same. There's nothing really outside it.
Carlton's another club we probably need to talk about. Harry Mackay, potentially done for a little bit, and then Sam Walsh injured as well. So where are we at? And Curnow, yeah. So it's pretty grim at the Blues right now.
Well, yeah, they've probably been a bit lucky with the draw that they've had. They've had West Coast again, got hold of them, and then they've got North Melbourne this week. So they're probably lucky somewhat, and then Port Adelaide on Thursday night. So I don't know, Carlton, where...
They've got a big couple of weeks, haven't they, realistically? Yeah. North Melbourne are going better than I thought.
Well, North was good on the weekend against Fremantle over there.
So as you said, they've got North, Port... So in Adelaide, and
that's no easy.
Your mob are back up and going, and then Collingwood, Brisbane. That's a tough month of footy.
We'll find out where they're at. If they win one of those, then the noise will be strong again for Vossi and what happens there. So plenty to play out for them over the next month.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We haven't touched on the biggest story, did we? Or did we do it off air? The roof in Tasmania.
Oh, yeah, okay. Let's do that now, yeah.
It has to, doesn't it? Like,
what?
If the AFL set you up...
What do you mean?
With the stadium. Well, we're looking at this.
You're not seriously saying that they've designed this game to have a night game to show how tough the conditions are?
Jimmy Bartell went that far.
No chance.
Jimmy Bartell delivered the stats on it. So over the last sort of 10 years or something, they've played 44 day games in Tasmania, one twilight, one night game. And so far this year, they've done no day games, one twilight, two night games.
Surely not.
They have to be, don't they? But out of it, you'd have to say that if you want to play night games, you're probably going to have a roof.
Well, yes. I think if you're building a multi-purpose stadium for other sports and concerts, it's the best thing for Tasmania.
Potentially
not just footy.
Test cricket back there. If you had a roof.
Well, you currently can't play Test cricket under a roof, but you can play one days. So, yeah, absolutely. And concerts are very important. But, yeah, night games in Tassie are cold. If you're looking for this is where how important, not just your corporates, but how your members, how important they are to create an environment that's comfortable. Because if you wanted home ground advantage, you'd probably play... on the Derwent River and have one end of your stand open and so it's blowing and cold for a home ground advantage and that would work nicely for the local team, but it wouldn't be real good for the supporters. But yeah, if someone has gone down that path for designing the roster to get night games in Tassie for the first time to show how important a roof is, they're geniuses and they should get a pay rise. But yes, it was just like it was cold. But it wasn't terrible conditions.
It was like -1, wasn't it?
Was
That's
it?
what I heard.
Oh, that's cold. Yeah, that's cold.
Yeah, it felt like 1 or something like that. It was cold, but yeah, it's interesting because the conditions, it wasn't pissing with rain, it wasn't like blowing a gale sideways, but the standard just wasn't there. And
that was
get a bit dewy and stuff. But
the week before was same in Canberra for the GWS Port Adelaide game. Yeah, it was felt like 3 or 2 or something like that. It was cold. Yeah. But if you're a player running around, it was a clear night, no breeze. Just the kicking was all over the place. So you thought the conditions would have actually been better for a high-scoring affair. So yeah, well done, the AFL, for setting the roster up like that.
I couldn't believe how few players wore the sleeves. I think Jack Ginnivan was the only one that had the sleeves on.
Culturally, it's a thing.
Yeah.
I think, wasn't it? It was you guys.
No, Alastair Clarkson wasn't in
Hawthorn,
Tassie.
Yeah, you weren't.
No, that was in Canberra.
Yeah,
when he ran around.
In Canberra. When he shorts and no one could wear long sleeve.
Yeah, but wasn't it? I think there was a bit of a thing, especially for Queensland teams going down the Tassie. No one was allowed to talk about the weather.
Yeah,
you can't just go, shit, it's cold.
Yeah,
we had a fine system one year that if you talked about it, you got fined.
Yeah, so that was more your era. That's what I'd heard about that.
A little weather jar. Yeah,
because they, I mean, just common sense, it's cold. We played in Ballarat one day. It was the coldest I've ever played against against the Western Bulldogs. It like the start of the game. If you
was that for
footage
Port?
of it, with Port, it felt like it was snowing. It was coming in sideways, rain. It was the coldest warm up I've ever been in.
Well, that bloody Canberra game when Clarko had the shirt off, it snowed that next night.
You called that game, didn't you?
Yeah. It was fair dinkum. The teeth were chattering at half time trying to get the words out.
Get the balaclava
and
out.
walking out of the ground, it was a snowstorm. It was belting down. Yeah, so no good that. Where the footy called off in Tassie one weekend, there was too much snow on the ground. It was fair dinkum. I won't say what year it was because you hung shit on me about talking about 89 last week. So, yes, I won't say that. It was 86.
If you build a roof, you can get Taylor Swift down there for concerts and everything, mate. It's a win.
Do you know who Taylor Swift is?
I've heard of her. What's she do?
She might be popular.
I reckon we get AC/DC for the first concert down there, or do the pre-game.
Just let it rock down there.
Just get it pumping.
Yeah.
Or if you're going for an American artist, Pink, she'd go all right, wouldn't she?
Pink.
Yeah, hanging off the rafters. Doesn't she do that?
Yeah.
There you go. I'm all over that. Yeah, there you go.
We'll clip that up. We'll get the word out. Before we take a break, boys, bit of a milestone game this weekend. Paddy Dangerfield bringing up 350, as if that couldn't make things any trickier for the Lions.
I thought you were going to say Tyson Stengel's 100th. He'd be flat, wouldn't he? Get run through the banner. Oh, yeah. I mean, you saw firsthand earlier in his career, Danger.
Yeah.
He's had star written all over him from the start, hasn't he?
Yeah, I was lucky to play with him 15, 16s, 18s. So we came through Country Victoria together.
So how good was he there?
Yeah, he was the same. You'd put him in the goal square and he could just do whatever you wanted. So he'd go through the midfield, and he's doing it effectively now. He just goes and sits in the goal square and he can turn a game. He's still got that power. He was always a man-child. I think he was still at school in Geelong when he first started playing at Adelaide. So he was going to school in Geelong and then he'd fly in and play games.
So I think he only did the 2 games in his first year, predominantly stayed at home, come over for training in school holidays.
Yeah.
So he's forfeited essentially a year.
Yeah.
So he's playing still game 350. But it looked like, and I think we discussed this as early commentators watching him, it looked like he'd go that hard as a competitor at the ball that he'd blow himself up in about 15 or 20 seconds. So he didn't have the repeat efforts.
Yeah.
But he's obviously built on that over the years. But as you said, his power's incredible.
He's a star. Like you think about the games, the one that sticks out for me for Danger was when him and Fife, they just shook hands and went head to head.
Yeah,
it was an incredible game. I think they both had 30 plus, but they just both dominated. And Danger's been able to do that for a long period of time now. Premiership play, he got that one that he wanted back at Geelong, and he's 350 games. It's going to be near impossible. And I think they're doing a whiteout or something, aren't they?
Are they? Okay. I like that.
College style whiteout.
Very
down
American.
in Geelong. So they're going to hand out 40,000 white shirts. So very hostile for Brisbane to go into. So the whole crowd should be white, apparently. So very challenging conditions for Brisbane to go down there. But congratulations to Paddy Danger.
Oh, incredible. 5 minutes to go in the grand final and you're a goal down. Do you put Paddy into the middle or full forward?
Forward.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do forward with Bailey Smith and that there. They can get it down to him. I do the Pagans paddock though. It would be everyone out outside 50. 5 up on the line.
Imagine being old mate on him. You'd be nervous. You know it's coming to him.
You'd be twitching, and then you'd have to try and get one to sit in front of him, and you'd be twitching as well sitting there. I think, you'd put him in the goal square. I'm with Ryan. I'd go to the goal square. You? Middle or goal square?
And I think that's why I toss it up. I think goal square. Yeah, I think so. He's just going to do something. But you know what? If you lost the toss and he's going into the midfield, I think he's going to do all right as well. But,
exactly. You mentioned Fife there as well. Good to see him back in front of the WA faithful on the weekend.
It was bizarre. It was bizarre that they flew him over a couple of weeks ago and made him sub against the Gold Coast when he hadn't played, and then he came on and played a quarter. But he got through, and it's good to see him back. Hopefully he can get a good run at it. Fremantle, no one sort of know. I don't know where they're at again. They found a way to win against North Melbourne, but good to see Fife back out there.
Yeah, they were frustrating on the weekend. Fife, that first game back at the Gold Coast, he had to do a big chase down the wing there.
Yeah, nervous.
And he was real nervous. He was just going 3/4 pace, thinking, "No, this is my first game back." Now I'm just looking. Where's down at Geelong to see when the last time that actually Lions won at Geelong, because I reckon it's been about 13 years. I reckon, but nah, I can't find it quick enough. We'll come back to it.
Did they not win a couple of years ago? Like break that back? No.
Was it?
I remember we went down there in 2013 and lost by 5 points, but we hadn't won before that, I don't think.
No, right, yeah.
I don't reckon I ever won there.
Yeah, I'm just having a look myself.
Did you win underage footy down there, or just nothing, full stop?
Here you go, 2003.
2003.
Skilled Stadium, it was still back then. Yeah.
You were still running around.
I was still running around.
You were in your late 30s back then in 2003.
That's right. I was just about...
Geelong 78, Brisbane 92.
Rightio.
There you go.
Well, there you go.
Nearly, what's that? 21 years ago. Yeah.
Long time ago. Did we come up with... Hang on. Did we come up with 3 different answers then?
It sounds like it, yeah.
23, 22, 21 or whatever it was.
2000. What did I say? 2003. Yeah.
You said 21. 22. I said 22 and you said 23. All right.
Well, do you count it?
Yeah, that's right. You're doing finance, aren't you?
I'd be worried. Let's take a break. We'll come back and chat some more. You're listening to AFL Unpopular Opinions. Fellas, I saw a post from the AFL social media account over the weekend saying if you could pick one player to come out of retirement, who would you pick? And Buddy Franklin was a pretty popular answer, but I'm going to throw the floor open here to see what you guys think. You can go back as far as you like, but give me some names.
As far as you like.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was thinking to start with, a legitimate one, I was thinking Joe Danaher.
Oh, okay.
With the way the forward line's going for the Brisbane Lions, would the list manager at the Brisbane Lions at least call into Byron for a coffee? Just to say, are you interested? Now, probably granted, Joe wasn't that interested in footy in the last couple of years anyway, but the void that he's left is probably greater than we all expected, and other players have dropped off without him there. So, yeah, I think it's legitimate. So for current players, I'll be going Joe Danaher.
Yep.
He probably lives very close to probably the other player I'd go for in the modern game. If you're looking for someone that could just rip a game apart, Tony Lockett lives near him down the coast. So just go, say, plugger, get back on the sugars and the beers and bulk up again.
Bulk up.
Yep.
But you're back. He'd be huge in the modern footy.
So I think... For me, one that recently retired, played with Robbie Gray, like prime Robbie Gray, would be good to get back. But I don't think you could go past the Duck, could you? Wayne Carey.
Yeah.
When he was at his absolute prime, you would have. You would have played on him.
Yeah.
At certain times.
I mostly was at fullback, so Ruzzi'd get Ruzzi'd get the Duck. I remember Robert Shaw said to him, because I think Duck had kicked about 4 points and was looking dangerous, and I think it was Robert Shaw said to him, "You've go and keep an eye on Carey." So Ruzzi went across the Carey and Duck kicked 3 in 5 minutes. And Shaw, he said, "I thought I told you to bloody keep an eye on him." He said, "Fuck no, I did." And geez, he can play.
I think him in his prime, like you think about North Melbourne Friday night footy, early to mid '90s. He was what AFL footy was. And you speak about like Dangerfield, who you'd put in the goal square. Like defenders would twitch if it was 1-on-1. You talk about Pagan's paddock. If they gave the Duck the 50, he was a freak.
It was mostly 1-on-1. He'd destroy games.
Yeah,
they just kick it up. Blakey and Stevens and Archer running off half back and that sort of stuff, and just bomb it, and he'd just take these catches. No, a good pick. He was the best player in my era, just to destroy games.
Yeah, some good answers there. All right, that might do us for today, boys. Anything coming up this weekend you want to plug? Or
well, Lynch, where are you going? You'll be flying somewhere.
Don't know where I'm going yet. Where am I going? What is this weekend? I've got a really interesting game. GWS Gold Coast.
7th v6. That's big.
That is a really good game, really important game for both teams, actually. I think probably even more so Gold Coast. They've got to win this.
Fresh from the bye too.
Yeah. After the bye, GWS just starting to show some form with an impressive win. So, huge game.
Yeah, okay.
You on on the tools this weekend?
Nah, weekend off, no footy in Queensland. So I'm looking forward to that Friday night game though. Geelong and Brisbane, I think it'll be a rip snorter. Not the Thursday night game. I probably won't tune into that. I might go to the movies or something instead. Freo Essendon. I don't know how Jack's obviously done a runner because his Bombers are horrendous. 95 points on the weekend.
Yeah, no.
He's not here, but yeah, Friday night for me, I think it'll be a ripper.
Yeah, no, the whiteout game, as you said, that will be a ripper. All right, boys. Thank you, Lynchy. Thank you, Rocky. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks for listening to Ned's AFL Unpopular Opinions. Enjoyed the podcasts? Remember to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.